I think we're up. So welcome, folks, to our second live streamed interview. I hope that you all enjoyed our trip down memory lane watching ghosts. I certainly did. Before we go any further, I want to acknowledge that we are coming to you, well, I'm coming to you from the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I want to pay my respects to all Aboriginal elders, past, present and emerging, from where I am, from where you are, and from where Ghosts was performed in the Docklands back in 2003. Acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and always was, always will be Aboriginal land. So my name is Sal Frances. For those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the trainers at Women's Circus. I came through as someone who trained with Women's Circus, and 2003 Ghost was the second show that I was involved with for Women's Circus. It was the first show that I did, having done the new crew program, but I'd been on the tech crew the year before, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I kept doing things with the tech crew, so you won't have seen me in that video, which I'm okay with. But yeah, that was a show that was a very early part of my time with Women's Circus, and it was epic. It was, as you have seen, like it was a space that fit like 6 massive shipping containers in it. It was an incredible, like it was a show that we worked on for a very long time. Usually our annual shows were performed November, December of the year. This was kind of meant to be our November, December 2002 show. It carried over into March 2003. And it was a very, very big show. I'm not sure how much of that kind of transcribed to the screen for you just watching it on YouTube now. But I do hope that you all got a bit of a sense of that. So I'd say there was probably about 50 performers in the show, and I'm very, very happy to be joined this evening by someone who is very close to my heart, Debby Maziarz, who is, I'm just gonna intro you now. Debby, say hi to us, mate.
Hello, hi, thanks for having me.
You might have spotted Debby in the show, just having a little nip of something that everyone was a bit jealous of. It was what? Yeah. I remember that was water. Mate. Yeah. Look, Debby, that was your final show with Women's Circus, yeah?
Yeah, but look, Sal, I just wanted to also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that I'm on, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging. It was my last show, and I remember in the show, I was thinking maybe this is my last show. So I was having those thoughts, and I'd never had the thoughts before. I always thought that I will always be a performer in the Women's Circus. And that was the year that I decided that it was the last show, and I was about to emerge and start a whole new creative project with my family.
Yep.
And that was the first year that the West Side Circus became incorporated as a not-for-profit and needed a full-time artistic director. So it was a really big milestone that year.
So yeah, I just want to fill people in. So I have a glorious circus crossover with Debby. So Debby just mentioned West Side Circus, which I know a lot of you are aware of already. So Debby started West Side Circus very, very kind of, I think, from what I know, because I wasn't around at the start for either of these things, but from what I know, Women's Circus began as a short-term project for women who were survivors of sexual assault. And it proved to be so beneficial for all the women involved that it expanded and it kept going. And here we are, 30 years later, very close to 30 years later, still going strong even through these times. And then I think from what I know, Debby started West Side Circus as a project for young people who were in the juvenile justice system. And again, West Side Circus still going strong
I know. Started as a project, just like the Women's Circus. So, I mean, I guess, and that started with, I think that started in 1996. So only 4 years after I joined the Women's Circus in its founding year, I was inspired to go and do a project, and that project turned into an entity of its own, and it's still going. So huge impact, the Women's Circus had on me.
Yeah, only 4 years after, because you were quite young when you joined Women's Circus, yeah?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started so 91 was the founding year, yeah? And then, so I would have been 18, but I feel like I'd already joined, because when I was 14, I joined a theatre company at Footscray Community Arts Centre called Foot and Mouth Theatre Company. Great name. And Donna was 21 and she was the artistic director.
Wow.
So I joined this amazing group. We were making shows, we were co-devising. There was some circus. Donna taught us how to juggle. I remember we did fire breathing. I remember we did tap dancing. So I already was influenced by her creative process and I guess her aesthetic. So when she left to go and start a women's circus, I just followed. So even though I started in 91, I felt like I was already in the process of community theatre.
Amazing. I think just to catch people up, just in case they're not aware of who Donna is, Donna Jackson was the founder of the Women's Circus back in 91. Yep, I'm doing the maths right here. So yeah, cool. That's great. I didn't know what Donna had been doing before then.
Yeah, she had, I think she had pink dreadlocks. It was great. I was 14, I mean, imagine being so young, and this was an adults theatre group. I don't know why they let me in, but I joined and I was this young teenager. And so I grew up, I guess, around people making art, telling stories since I was teeny tiny, I feel. So
amazing.
Yeah.
What were your favourite skills to learn in the circus?
Well, in the beginning, I remember the classes being really generalist, so you could just turn up and just try anything. And I remember juggling was my first thing, and then I tried whip cracking, but that was really hard. And then I did aerials. I actually learned. I did some ropes, and I did web. So I did
wow.
web. I know. And I think the show was Women in Sport.
Yep.
I did a beautiful web routine and I was very proud of that. But then I guess I found my place, which was basing double balance, basically. So
yes.
I became Deb Maz, the bass, alongside another beautiful bass called Deb Lewis.
Yeah.
And
who features heavily in Ghosts as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basing was my thing. And, Franca Studler, a fellow member of the Women's Circus, was my double bass partner for many years. And that was really special.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I believe there's a comment that just came up in the chat here for us that a few people did notice that final moment in Ghost, the curtain call. I'm glad folks managed to look out for that. Yeah, I feel like a similar thing. Like I came into circus basically throwing things at people and setting things on fire.
Yep.
And then completely fell in love with acrobalance and basing as well. And also I've had a really good time hanging out with Deb Lewis in acro classes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I think acro really suited my personality and my body type. And I just love the feeling of being at the bottom and being responsible for a really big image. Like, it was really powerful, and my legs are so strong. I feel like when I'm in my base position, even today, and I have not based anybody for years, I still have my muscle memory. It's still there. It's amazing. And the thing about acrobalance too, I mean, especially with working with one person, like having a partner like Franca, the inherent trust, it's so powerful. And I remember I was so in tune with Franca that I would be able to sense where she was in a space without even being able to see her,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty special.
Amazing. Also, I'm just thinking from what you said about not having based for years, that you've like the muscle memory still there. Just like some hopeful words there for those
Yes.
folks who have not been able to go in to train, since lockdown began. We
Yep.
still have our muscle memory, folks. It's still there. So when we come back, it'll all be good.
17 years of memory still there.
So yeah, I think in case anyone watching doesn't know, like Women's Circus have been running quite a few classes over lockdown period, and I'm just like, I feel like for myself, I feel like keeping fit and doing exercise is one of the things that I can do at the moment. Like there's a lot of things that we can't do, but I can do that, and I just want to be like, as soon as we can come back and train again, I just want to be ready. So yeah. Come to classes, folks. This is just a casual plug for classes there. Let's maybe bring it back to the show Ghosts itself. Like there was so much going on at the time, and also I think back in those days, and it was something that watching it, I really certainly picked up on. It was back when we used to do large scale shows every year. And I feel like it really shows in terms of how comfortable people are carrying a story or carrying particular tension on stage. Lots and lots of seasoned folks on stage in that show. Mm-hmm. And yeah, a lot going on at the time. First 5 years we had Donna Jackson as director. The next 5 years, and I was there for the final year of the 5 years of Sarah Cathcart as artistic director and Kim Baston as musical director. And so it was the start of a new era for Women's Circus. Andrea Lemon did 2 years with us. And in that time, Andrea's mum passed away. And that was something that really informed the creation of this show, as well as things that were going on in the world at the time. Is there anything in particular that you remember from that time that connects you to that show?
Yeah, I think there was something very gentle and poetic about it. And I remember, I was 9 months pregnant in that show. So for me, I felt incredibly supported by this amazing network of a value system, as well as people physically nestled in. I mean, it was a very beautiful show, and I felt incredibly, maybe not so relevant in the show, but I felt relevant in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even though it was about loss, it was very tender. And I remember the process, because some of the years that, we'd always have the grunt. We always have a lot of grunt in the show, and that year it felt incredibly soft and gentle, and I remember feeling really supported and connected to that, especially with what was going on in my body and in my life, and yeah, I remember that we're meant to do the show in December, and I was okay with that because my baby was coming in March. So when we were told that it was moving to March, I remember feeling incredibly nervous, but I was happy that they still let me be in the show. I mean, why wouldn't you? I'm just a woman, So it was I think I had one memory of the creative process that was really amazing, and it was one of the things that we used to always do in the large scale shows, where the artistic director, after a period of research and development, would come back and present the show to the membership on butcher's paper with images. And I remember Andrea Reynolds and Andrea Lemon and Andrea Owsley, who was head of training, we were talking through the show. And I remember thinking, wow, this is really special. This is sophisticated. Like, this is something that you might see in Europe. And I remember feeling really proud of it. It was something new. It was something different, so it was great.
Yeah, it was as I said, for me, very, very early stages of my experiences with Women's Circus. And it was just, and working as a tech on the show, and then being up at the back of the seating bank in the Scaff Tower with John Holland for every show, just basically having the best seat in the house every night. And I think I don't know, I mean, it was at least a 2-week run, maybe 3 weeks for Ghosts. I don't remember. I think maybe 3. And it was so big, and it just, you know, it asked a lot of everyone, but everyone was just so ready to give their all for this show.
Absolutely. Just think about all the collective artworks. I mean, do you remember that wall of those garments that were, you know, like, I just remember that I'm not sure, I can't remember the costume designer's name, but just
Amanda Silk, I think.
Yeah, putting that together was just another mammoth effort of the collective work. I mean, it was huge. We did so much. We achieved so much. You know, it was.
Yeah, and as well as having people who were performing on stage on a more regular basis in terms of like doing a large scale show every year, we also had a tech crew that. You know, like we just like the acrobats and such would go to classes and train every week. We would go and learn stuff every week and learn about the different tech stuff. And it, like in terms of the sense of community within the tech crew as well, I think in the intro with Gavin and Margay, there's a bit of a shot from behind of one of the No Techie No Show t-shirts. I actually was going to wear, I forgot, I was going to wear my Ghosts t-shirt tonight. I am wearing my Ghosts pin. So we used to get a pin at the end of the show. I don't know if folks can see that.
Yes.
But yeah, so that was, it was huge. And it was such a big thing that people, basically everything else in life went on hold for that. And we poured so much into it, but we got so much out of it as well. And I think it's pretty clear from what we said about your journey with Women's Circus and then with West Side Circus, that Women's Circus had a pretty big impact on your life.
Yeah, look, you know, I carry this around all time. This beautiful book, you know, The Women's Circus.
Oh, nice one.
You know, that's me right there on the back.
Yes.
You know, I'm supposed to be basing the pyramid, but I turned up late to the photo shoot, so I'm standing in front of the poor woman who is basing the pyramid. But yeah, I carry that around with me. It had a big impact. I think, well, it inspired my career and my creative life. So I went on to start a circus, and everything that I learnt about, you know, storytelling, bringing groups together, supporting others, being supported, building community, I took that into the West Side Circus. So, you know, and I guess the reason why I think that the West Side Circus and the Women's Circus is still going is because that DNA is really strong, and you can't get rid of that. So it's pretty powerful. So I think it's influenced my value system, which I practice every day. I mean, it's what I do. I talk about it all the time. It's how I act things out. So huge impact. I'm one of those people that got impacted.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Likewise. I am still here and very happy to be here, and still at West Side if we, you know, once we open back up. So yeah, we're talking about like timeline before we came on live. I remember going to see Poppies, which you directed with West Side Circus in 2002, and then in 2000 it would have been 2003 that the Albatross was on. Both just stunning shows, mate. Stunning show. Albatross was amazing, and the music as well.
I know, and I guess, you know, I think about it, I had so much energy. I mean, I was in the Women's Circus large scale show, directing my own large scale shows, and I had a full-time job as a youth worker. I mean, you know, there's
a lot of people.
Capacity.
I think about like the Albatross too, and there's a lot of people who were in West Side at the time who are still, you know, most of those people are still doing circus. You know, a couple of folks that Women's Circus folks will know, Bianca, for example, who, if you had a keen eye watching Ghosts and you saw a couple of long plaits flying around, that was Bianca's signature hairstyle of the time. But yeah, I think, you know, sort of looking back at a lot of things and from the past for ourselves, and getting a little bit nostalgic, and you know, because it is something that we're both still carrying very strongly. But now, like, I mean, there's a lot of looking ahead that needs to take place at the moment, where we've got a very differently shaped world
Yeah.
right about now. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on what circus and circus shows can look like in a post-COVID world.
Well, isn't this the question for the whole sector? I mean, you know, I think, you know, this might be a terrible example, but I was watching TV and I was flicking stations the other day and I saw the footy and I saw these guys kicking a football with no one in the stands, right? And I thought they're still doing their thing. And so I think, you know, can we still do our thing, but maybe it's just it's a different way we have to engage with our audiences. They're not going to be in the stands, maybe, you know? So when I'm thinking about what the future is, it's, can we still make the shows and just think differently about where the audience is sitting? I mean, that's something I've been thinking about. And I know that people are already streaming live theatre, yeah? So it's happening.
Yep.
But
also, I've been thinking, and I know I'm not the only one, but just to take a little bit of inspo from the backdrop.
Yeah.
You know, like that might be. I have actually been to the drive-in once since lockdown. I think in between the two lockdowns, they opened up for a bit.
Yes.
That was pretty great. Also, while I'm on that, if anyone's got any 3D glasses at home, please let us know if when I do this, the fabulous Divine tries to jump out of the screen at you. I'd love to know how that translates over Zoom and YouTube. But yeah, so I think there's a few people sort of toying around with the idea of having places. I think there's like churches in the States that are doing like drive-in sermons and stuff like that. Maybe there's a way that we can do live performance at the drive-in or something similar.
And I was talking to a colleague the other day who they were just about, I think in March this year, they were just about to do their large scale show with the kids, and there was like 60 kids in the show. And in the end, they filmed it from a drone, you know, so they're still able to do it. But so again, it's just that thing about where the audience is. And so I'm thinking all the time, do we have to cancel it? Does it have to be online, or can we still do it? It's just about the relationship with the viewer, the audience, which of course isn't ideal to not have people sitting and being in the show. But yeah, I think it's a new world. Hey, it's different. It's never going to be the same again. What are we going to do?
It is very different. It's very different. Look, I think we might wind it up after that, and I, you know, might chew on that idea for a little bit longer. And
let me know what you come up with. Ask the membership, you know.
Yeah, I think some surveys have gone out. But yeah, folks, if you're watching and you have some great ideas, please get in touch. It's really lovely to hear from everyone for all sorts of reasons at the moment. But yeah, Debbie, I want to thank you so much for coming along, mate. The only, like, you know, brand new world. I'm missing my Deb Maz hug that I usually get when we get to bump into each other. Yep. But it's just so lovely to get a chance to just have a chat and catch up.
Yeah, great, Sal, and thanks for having me. I was looking forward to it all day, so I'm happy that I feel like I'm in a room with some people, so that's great. And it was great to reflect on the show and the women's circus and all of the kind of the ripple effect of that. So thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I'm gonna say good night to everyone. I think we've been on the screens for a while now, you know, including Margot and David at the beginning, and a pretty epic show. So let's have a break from our screen time. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in classes. And also next month, I think we might be looking maybe at Quite Contrary, which was directed by Deb Batten in, I think, 2010. I could have that wrong. Could be 2011. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to the memory bank and work that out, do the maths. But thanks everyone for joining us. See you soon.